Structural analysis, basic principles explained. To make the concepts easier to grasp, this explanation uses an example from a chain of shoe stores. First, the functional principle, where work is divided according to professional tasks. In a functional structure, the shoe chain is organized around specialist functions rather than types of shoes. All sales activities are grouped together across men's, women's, and children's shoes, and the same sales associate sells all categories. The emphasis is on sales discipline, customer service, and upselling, rather than on product specialization. Warehouse and logistics activities are consolidated in a single warehouse function. Warehouse staff receive all goods, manage product flow, inventory levels, and related costs. Purchasing is centralized in one buying team, which negotiates with suppliers, agrees prices and plans collections for the entire chain across all shoe categories. The advantages of the functional principle are high professional specialization and clear career paths within, for example, sales or purchasing. It is also easier to standardize procedures, since all sales staff work according to the same concepts and methods. The downside is a tendency towards silo thinking, where sales, warehouse, and purchasing optimize their own objectives rather than the overall result. There is also a risk of weaker focus on the differences between men's, women's, and children's customer segments, because the product is not the primary structural principle. In practice, this means that sales staff may not know the details of specific products and customer needs in each segment. By contrast, the object principle is organized around markets or products. Here, the structure follows shoe types or customer segments. A men's shoes unit is responsible for sales, purchasing, assortment, campaigns, and possibly its own inventory budget for men's shoes. And similarly, the women's shoes unit has full responsibility for the women's collection. The children's shoes unit has a dedicated focus on children's needs, safety, sizing, seasonal patterns, and so on. The benefits are a strong market, customer, and product focus, where each unit can optimize assortment, pricing, and campaigns for its customers. As a result, performance measurement is more transparent, since it is easier to see, for instance, whether the children's segment is profitable. The disadvantages include a risk of duplication of effort, because each unit builds its own functions, e.g. its own buyers and its own campaigns, and economies of scale are harder to realize when functions are spread across several object units. In the combinatorial principle, there is a shared engine room behind separate customer-facing businesses. This principle aims to combine the best of both worlds by integrating functional and object-based logic. At the front end, the shop floor can be divided into men's, women's, and children's areas, each with its own targets for revenue and customer satisfaction. At the same time, the chain has shared functional units, a single buying department purchasing all shoes, one logistics function, and one HR department, and so forth. Typical features of the combinatorial principle include product or category owners, category managers, for men's, women's, and children's shoes who decide assortment, pricing, and campaigns, while functional staff units support all categories with common systems, processes, and standards. The advantages are scale and consistency in the core functions, for example, one purchasing system and one inventory platform, while still allowing a dedicated focus on the men's, women's, and children's segments. The downside is increased structural complexity, because both product and functional tracks coexist, even if the formal reporting line often remains singular. This can generate conflicts over priorities, for example, who owns assortment decisions, the functional head of purchasing or the object-level category head. Matrix organization moves away from the classic line and staff principle, where each employee has only one manager. The matrix makes the dual logic explicit. There are two axes, both with real decision-making authority. In the shoe chain example, a sales associate in women's shoes reports to a store manager as the immediate leader, responsible for scheduling, well-being, and overall store performance, while a category or product manager for women's shoes in the chain decides campaigns, product priorities, and sales targets for the women's category. A buyer may report to a functional head of purchasing who is responsible for methods, procedures, and capability development, and at the same time serve 3 internal clients, product managers for men's, women's, and children's shoes, each with specific requirements for collections and delivery. The advantages are high flexibility. Resources can be reallocated across projects, categories, and stores without a full-scale reorganization. It supports both professional excellence via functional managers and strong market orientation via object or product managers at the same time. The disadvantages are often described as the classic matrix paradox, cross pressures and role conflicts, where employees receive conflicting demands from their 2 managers, for example. Reduce labor hours versus increase women's sales by 20%. This also raises the bar for coordination, conflict management, and leadership capabilities. Structure alone does not solve problems. It creates a new set of leadership challenges to be handled. This also raises the bar for coordination, conflict management, and leadership capabilities. Structure alone does not solve problems. It creates a new set of leadership challenges to be handled. Thank you for watching. Share this with someone who studies organization, or perhaps someone who ought to.
Husk at like og subscribe.